Hi, and welcome to this tutorial where I will be showing you how to use distress inks to add shading to a Copic coloured image. I will be using the penny black stamp called Scented Message for this particular project. First of all, use Memento Rich Cocoa ink and stamp onto your white card background. I have also decided to decorate the envelope, and so I've used a craft envelope, and I'm going to repeat the process again on here. Now I'm going to take Copic colours G94 and G21 and colour in the leaves. I find that by colouring in the leaves first, it's easier to identify where the flowers and buds are. I'm using the Copic with a very, very light motion on the actual paper. I do this because the ink flows so freely, you don't need to apply much pressure. I'm colouring in the leaves solidly first with G21. If at any time you go over the edge of the lines, it's easy to remove by using the colourless blender. Now I'm going to take G94, use a feathering motion and lightly flick out from the centre to the edge of the leaf. This will make it easier for shading in afterwards. I'm adding a few darker highlights to the stems to give them a more rounded appearance. I then go back in with my lighter colour and from the outside edge towards the middle just lightly blend in the darker shade. Now I'm going to use B00 to colour in the flowers and the buds. Again, just pressing very lightly. I can colour quite quickly now because I can see where the flowers and the buds are from the leaves. I'm not worrying at all if I miss any odd areas, because this will act as the highlights to the petals. In addition to colouring the flowers, I'm also going to colour the postmark with this light blue all over. I'm going to repeat the process with the same colours on the envelope, but this will give a more muted look, as you can see here. Now I'm going to take tumbled glass and I'm going to apply some directly to my craft sheet. And then with a very fine paintbrush, I'm going to use a flicking motion from the centre of the flower, picking up a bit of the ink from the craft sheet and adding it to the flower. And by flicking outwards, I then get a nice fine edge to the outer edge of the petal. I'll repeat this process for all of the petals. I'm then going to take the darker shade of Distress Ink Broken China and do the same process again, but this time not flicking quite so far out. This will give a two-tone darker shading to the centre of each flower. As you can see here, I'm also colouring in the outer edge with the darker shade of broken china onto the postmark. I'm then going to use tumbled glass to distress the edge of the paper with an ink blending tool. I rub the tool from my craft sheet onto the paper. This way I don't get any solid colour lines onto the card. I get a nice smooth finish. I'm using a circular motion to actually apply the ink evenly. Once I've finished this, I'm then going to use broken china and I'm going to go around the very edges again to create a slightly darker edge. As you can see, I'm not going in quite as far with this shade. I'm then going to dab some vintage photo distress stain onto my craft sheet. I'm going to load some onto a paintbrush and then I'm going to use some tweezers to actually flick the paintbrush against it. This gives a speckled effect to the edge and adds an aging look to the finished product, as you can see here. I'm then going to use my distress tool. This one is by Tim Holtz, and I'm going to go along the edge of the card and just rough up the edge of the paper. Again, this gives it more of an antique-y look. Then with brushed corduroy distress ink, I'm going to go round the edges of the card to give it an antique feel. I'm then going to take some antique lace and apply it to the bottom of the card. I'm then going to use my plus glue roller to apply the panel to my card base. I find this glue is really good as it holds very strongly onto the card. And then position this onto my card blank. I'm then adding some felt roses that I've created. If you would like to see how to create these flowers, please visit my blog where I will have details of a full video tutorial on how to do this. I've actually coloured the roses with Copics using an airbrush to get a variation in colour. And here you can see the finished card. Here is a full list of the materials used. Please pause the video to leave on the screen longer. Thank you for watching. For further details, please visit my blog at candronicocardcraft.blogspot.com.